everybody, welcome back to Library Says. My name is Jamie and today I'm doing the books and coffee tag. I was tagged to do this video by Kay at Kay's Library. She is fantastic. I'm going to link her video down below. Go check it out. I have my cold brew, my beloved cold brew, and I have answers to each of these questions. I had to pick books inspired by different coffee-esque prompts. So let's get started. Black Coffee, a series that's hard to get into, but has hardcore fans. For this one, I've decided to go with the Outlander series by Diana Gabaldon. I love the Outlander TV show. Love it. I think it's just phenomenal, especially the early seasons. I generally don't want to watch movies or shows based on books without having read the book first. And so when the Outlander TV show was about to premiere, I decided I'm going to give the book a chance. I could not do it. I DNF'd it at like 20% or something. Then I watched the whole first season of Outlander, got obsessed with it, and thought, okay, now let's try it again. I did finish it, sort of, but I mostly skimmed, to be honest. I don't love Diana's writing style. I don't like the tangents where we go dive into a historical event that actually doesn't have anything to do with the plot for chapters. So much description, and also there's so much on-page rape, which, to be fair, the show has a lot of that too, but I feel like it feels so gratuitous in the books. The fans of the Outlander books are rabid. They are intense. People really love those books, and awesome, that's great. But I'm never going to be one of them. I'm just going to keep watching the show, and I don't have any intention of reading the rest of the series. Peppermint Mocha, books that get more popular around the holidays, Christmas, winter season. Dash and Lily's Book of Dares by Rachel Kahn and David Levithan. I loved this book back when I was a late teen, early 20-something, probably college age. It takes place around Christmas in New York City. These two teenagers who don't know each other basically leave notes for each other around New York City and a scavenger hunt leading up to them meeting for the first time, all with this background of the holidays and snow. It's just wonderful. And I think it's a book that probably would have faded into obscurity had it not been set around the holidays. But because it is, every year around Christmas or around the winter season, a whole bunch of people read it. That makes me very happy because I really do love it and I think it's got something special. So if you haven't read it, I recommend it. Hot Chocolate, my favorite children's book. Okay, so I'm gonna pick two. One that's a picture book and one that's like a middle grade. My favorite picture book is Just Another Ordinary Day by Rod Clement. This is out of print, which is devastating. I still have my original copy. I'd have to dig it out. I don't know where it is, but I still have my original copy from when I was little. My mom and I would read it all the time, to the point where the cover fell off and I had to staple it back on. It's literally stapled on. The genius of this picture book is that if you just read the text, it is just another ordinary day. It follows a day in the life of a little girl who wakes up, has breakfast, goes to school, gets picked up by the elderly neighbor, taken home and babysat, and sits and reads with her cat, and all these just like very mundane parts of her life. But the illustrations are just so much more. The elderly neighbor that picks her up and babysits her after school is a T-Rex, and her bedroom is on top of a mountain, and her alarm clock is actually a gong, and the curry they eat is literally on fire. It's just fantastic. It's so creative, and it, as a kid, really tapped into my innate like creativity sense, or it just like made my mind explode. Not to get dramatic. My favorite middle grade that I read for the first time when I was 11, and I've reread many, many times, I've talked about it a lot on my channel, is The Giver by Lois Lowry. It's the first speculative fiction novel that really hooked me on that sort of genre. It's an early dystopian book for kids. It sort of paved the path for the Hunger Games and other series to follow. It's spectacular, and it's another one that if you haven't read it, what are you doing? It won the Newbery. It's A+. Double Shot of Espresso, a book that kept me on the edge of my seat the entire time. I'm gonna go with Dark Matter by Blake Crouch. This is a book that follows a sort of multiverse theory where every choice you make spins off a different reality, and what if you could travel between the various realities that your life could have followed. It is a thriller. It is just, you won't even want to blink. The whole time you're reading it, you're just gonna flip pages and you just want to know what's gonna happen, and your heart is hammering the entire time. Good stuff. Starbucks, a book you see everywhere. I'm gonna go with The Raven Cycle by Maggie Stiefvater. These are books that are always still on display every time I go into a bookstore, are still on every recommended reading list I see as a librarian for teens. Every booktuber's obsessed with them. Every booktuber's still vlogging about them and talking about them, and they make it onto recommended lists, and I liked them a lot, but it is kind of mind-boggling to me how prevalent they are on BookTube and Bookstagram and in libraries. It does kind of feel like Starbucks. The Hipster Coffee Shop, an indie book shout-out. I'm gonna go with Serena Bowen's hockey romances. Serena Bowen started as a regularly published author and didn't do super well, so she actually changed her name. I don't know what she was originally being published as, but Serena Bowen is the second name she has been published under, and she's done it independently. I love some good hockey romance, and she has written with Elle Kennedy and by herself both college and adult romances that are centered on hockey players, and they are fantastic. The Brooklyn Bruiser series is my all-time favorite series of hockey romances. I've read a lot of them, and yeah, she's independently published. I don't know if you knew that, but I love her. I love her. Oops, I accidentally got decaf. That would be just a nightmare. A book you expected more from. Honestly, for this one, I'm gonna go with every YA dystopian series ever to some extent. And I'm talking about their conclusion, so usually like the third book in the dystopian trilogy. I'm looking at you, Divergent. Allegiant, I can't even say anything more or I'll start yelling. Delirium, each book in that trilogy just... The Matched trilogy, I thought ended weakly. I thought the Maze Runner series, I loved the first book. Thought the second book was okay. Third book, hugely disappointing. It felt like there was a streak there where every YA dystopian trilogy that came out, and I'm thinking like, what, 2005 to 2012 maybe, had just a disappointing ending where a huge portion of its readership agreed, sort of unanimously, that it didn't live up to expectations. All right, and then the very last prompt is The Perfect Blend, a book or series that was a mix of bitter and sweet, but ultimately satisfying. I'm going to talk a little bit about one of my favorite books I've read in 2020. I just read it this month, Where the Lost Wander by Amy Harmon. This follows a young woman who is already widowed at, I think, like 22 years old or something, who decides to go with her family on the Oregon Trail. They're going to migrate, I think, from Ohio to Oregon in the late 1880s. And it also follows the perspective of a half-white, half-Pawnee man who is on the wagon train as a guide. The book opens with a horrific tragedy having happened to the members of this wagon train, and then we rewind to when they first set out on the Oregon Trail and kind of build up to that event and what led to it. And then when we meet back up with that event, what happens going forward. And in the perspective of these two characters, it is so beautiful and so moving and heartbreaking, and it doesn't pull any punches. It's very realistic to the suffering and the illness and the deaths and the risk that these people took, but it was also so beautiful, and I loved it, and I kind of just want to reread it. If you're not normally a historical fiction reader, I'm not either. So give this one a go anyway if it sounds intriguing to you at all, because it worked so well for me. And like I said, I don't usually read historical fiction. I don't read much of it, and when I do, I don't usually get like obsessed with it. And this one I just loved. It blew me away. Definitely bitter, definitely sweet, perfectly satisfying. I'm going to tag 3 people to do this tag as well. Ashley at The Reader's Wand, Sophie at Sophie Snow, and Kayla at Bees Bookland. I can't wait to see your answers to these questions. Otherwise, that's it for me. Thanks guys for watching, and I will catch you in the next one. Bye.